Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Man, it was a real good weekend this past weekend for the Big 12. You know, the first couple weeks, like last week, it was just kind of ho-hum, not a lot of action. Week before and even the first week, the Big 12 kind of had some missteps in order to take steps forward. This past week, I think the Big 12 kind of got their mojo back, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it was an outstanding week for the Big 12. Now, I get it. Some teams got beat, and so you're thinking, come on, Big B. Hell, it wasn't a good weekend for us. But overall, as a conference, it was a good week. And don't let 1 week get you down, people. This is the Big 12 conference. You can't lose the Big 12 conference in 1 week. That's not how this is done. And we all should know that. You're not losing the Big 12 because you lost one game, or it doesn't appear to be the way that it has worked out in the past. Now, this year could be different. I don't know. But my money is on chaos, and you know how I love chaos. My money's on chaos. But I think we did see a team take a step forward. I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind. We'll discuss all of that and more. We'll give you a breakdown of exactly what happened this weekend. It was a good weekend for the Big 12. It just was. It was, people. So before we get into it, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section like you guys always do, man. Love the support you guys have given us over the last month. And always hit the notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. Let's get into this. First off, started off Friday night. I was at high school football. But I had my phone. And I was like, I'm going to be watching you, Oklahoma State. And I shouldn't have watched. It was a disgrace. It just was. The football, the level of football being played at Oklahoma State right now is laughable. Now, can it turn around? Sure, it can. Is it going to turn around? I don't know. I mean, if I had that ability to predict the future, I promise you, I wouldn't be doing this, and I'd take a couple of you guys with me because we'd be off somewhere sitting on a beach every day predicting everything. Having said all of that, Oklahoma State is a bad football team. Mike Gundy no longer wants to coach. It's apparent. It was apparent when they got the doors blown off at Oregon when he's taking pictures with opposing fans on his way to the locker room after getting their head beaten in. That was a disgrace. The product that they're putting out there, somebody got in the comments and got mad and told me that, well, you know, you should do more analysis. What analysis do you want me to do on Oklahoma State other than they're not very good? They don't do anything good. So what analysis should I be giving you? I don't think there's any analysis other than their coach doesn't want to coach. It appears that the kids have quit. Either they have quit or they're just not very good. Well, isn't that both on the coach? If the kids have quit, the coach has lost them. That's on the coach. And if the kids aren't very good, well, who brought the kids in? Coaches. What else do you want me to say? Bottom line is losing to Tulsa at home 19-12 is disastrous for that program. Whether Gundy quits or retires, it remains to be seen. And again, it's not impossible for them to come back. It's not impossible. Is it likely? Hell no. But that doesn't mean it can't happen, people. Just keep that in mind. Does not mean it cannot happen. Moving on. BYU, East Carolina. I was nervous. I'll be honest. I was nervous about this football game. It's not that I don't think BYU's good. It's East Carolina's not bad. And they weren't terrible in this football game. They're not a bad team. On the road, biggest game of the year for them. They can say, oh, it's just another game. We're just hosting them. Yada, yada, yada. No, this is the biggest game that you're going to play at home all year. You get a Big 12 opponent to come to you. Yeah, that's the biggest game on your schedule. And they played like it. They did. Now, BYU was the better football team. Took some opportunities of some miscues by East Carolina, but you create those opportunities, you know. And look, for Bear Bachmeier, I don't know if this was a coming out party for him. I do know what he threw for 245, a touchdown. like I said, I don't know if this is a coming out party for him, but I know this is the best that he has looked heading into conference play. This is the best that he's looked. And this is exactly the blueprint for BYU and what BYU fans said, coaches said, I said, give him some time, get, his feet wet. He's not going to look great early, and let him build up the momentum and his confidence with this early season schedule. That's exactly what happened. Now, you're going to get jumped into the fire. Now, I don't know if Colorado's it next week. We'll see. It's on the road, tough, but we'll see. But he looked good. The defense, is always there. LJ Martin ran for over 100 yards, a touchdown. Defense with a pick six. It's BYU, man. And like I said, this was a trap game. In my opinion, I thought it was every bit a trap game because they're looking forward to, hey, Colorado is number one. It's conference game. It's on the road. It's going to have a ton of eyeballs. Colorado really wants to beat us because we beat their head in the bowl game last year. So this is what it is. Looking ahead over to East Carolina, trap game. They came out of it pretty well. I like what BYU did, 34-13. Good road win. Again, trap game. Not saying East Carolina is the greatest team in the world, but this game could have been a lot closer than what it was. BYU is just better than them. Speaking of Colorado, they beat Wyoming 37-20. Look, Caden Salters, this came out that Deion Sanders, the reason that he benched him is because Salters wasn't doing the things that he or the staff wanted him to do, which I find wild that this guy comes from Liberty. He goes to Colorado and then wants to do his own thing. It just seems wild to me. Having said all of that, it appears that he's doing the things that they asked him to do. I thought he should have entered the game against Houston in the third quarter when Colorado still had a chance to win, but Coach Prom's proving a point. Okay. If you're proving a point to the young man, either you're going to do it my way or not at all. Good for you. Good for you. Sometimes that has to happen. It's unfortunate that you got to sacrifice the team to do that, but sometimes the kid's got to learn a lesson, man. And it appears that he did. He came out. He had a good game. Threw for 305, 3 touchdowns, ran for another touchdown. Colorado, look, I'm not saying Wyoming's great because they're not, but this is a good win for them. This is a good win for them. This is one of those games where, again, they needed to be a physical football team, and they were a physical football team. The O-line played well, like I mentioned, 196 yards rushing, 6.2 yards a carry. Again, they needed to be the physical football team. Now, is that going to carry over next week to BYU? We shall see. They're going to need to have some of that. Running for 196 yards against BYU may find to be difficult, but you can – if you're going to win, you're going to have to be able to run the ball some. You're going to have to be able to run it some. The defense held Wyoming 348 total yards. I just think it was a solid effort. You got back to 500. That's huge. But there's a gigantic game next week. So you got this one under your belt. Now you step up probably 3 rings as far as competition next week with BYU coming. What are you going to do next week? We shall see. UCF just beats it. Now, North Carolina's not good. I thought North Carolina may be a little bit better than what they actually are, but that doesn't I don't want to take anything away from UCF because UCF beat the brakes off of North Carolina, ladies and gentlemen. They did that. They absolutely did that. This was one of those games where I said, hey, at the end of the year, when they start counting Power 4 wins from conference to conference, UCF needs to stand up and win this one because even though North Carolina stinks, that's not how they do this. They don't say, well, North Carolina stinks, so we're not going to count that game against UCF. No, they're going to say, what's the Big 12's record against the ACC? And this is a win. And UCF, they played good. Taven Jackson, I'm going to guess he's going to keep the starting job now. I know the quarterback got hurt, but I'm going to guess Cam Fancher. I'm going to guess Jackson keeps the job. Threw for 223, a touchdown, ran for 66 and another touchdown. But I don't know that that's the story. I think the story, UCF's defense played very well. Just stopped North Carolina from doing everything that they wanted to do. Like I mentioned, North Carolina is not good, but that's not UCF's fault. UCF, hey, just because you're playing a bad team, nobody thought they were going to be this bad. Bottom line is, congratulations, UCF, 3-0. Competition steps up. It appears to step up next week. I don't know. Is Kansas State, is that a step up? I don't know. We'll see. But they do go on the road for the first time, so we'll see what happens there. I think it's a gigantic game for UCF next week. I think that game is huge for them because if they can get it, a bowl game is not out of the question for UCF. They still have a long way to go. They'll still have a long way to go. And saying they're going to win next week they're not going to be favored in that football game. Having said all that, if they can go win, it's going better than I think maybe a lot of people thought. The Scott Frost 2.0, the reboot. It's going better, and that's a good sign because they're ahead of schedule. I like what they did on Saturday, regardless if North Carolina's good or not. UCF beat the brakes off of them. Good for you. Good for you. Kansas crushes West Virginia 41-10. I said they would. A lot of people said they would. It wasn't just me. And look, number one, Kansas is better than what a lot of people think that they are. That's number one. And two, I broke it down. Look, West Virginia, the emotional swings, you lose Ohio, a game that you thought you should win. Turns out Ohio's not as bad as what many people believe. Okay. Then you come back, you're down, and then you end up coming back and you win the backyard brawl in dramatic fashion. And then the very next week, you got to go on the road against a team that is hungry after being beat by their rival 2 weeks prior. It was set up for disaster for West Virginia, and that's exactly what they got. Look, Jalen Daniels wasn't spectacular, but he didn't have to be. He was efficient. Or I take that back. He wasn't efficient. He was effective because you're 12 for 24. You're not being efficient, but you were effective. The man threw for 3 touchdowns. Didn't turn the foot, didn't throw in any interceptions. So, look, I just think that Kansas is a lot better than what people anticipated coming off of last year. They've got 5-1 written all over them. That was what I said they could get to this year, and then we'll see what happens from there. They still have 2 games to go, and it's not going to be easy, but this is where I thought Kansas would be. And 2 more games, if they can win those, they're 5-1, and then it's Tech. So Kansas is a good football team. Their O-line went to work. They ran, what they run the football for? 259 yards, 6.6 yards a carry. They were running the football. They got after West Virginia. And like I said, West Virginia, emotional roller coaster, just up and down, and they were set up for failure. And it's not nobody set them up. I guess technically they set themselves up for failure because nobody did this to them. They didn't say go lose to Ohio. Go pull yourself off the scrap heap and beat, Pitt in a game. It's just the way the things happen. But again, Kansas is a good football team, people. They can't just keep your eyes on Kansas. Just keep your eyes on them. If they can play football and be physical, if they can do that, especially defensively, if they can do that, because they were embarrassed by Missouri. 596 yards to Missouri. And I don't care how good Missouri is. You can't give up that many yards and win a football game, especially on the road. And Kansas is better than that. And I think they're out to prove that they're better than that. So it's a good win for them. TCU, ladies and gentlemen, look, I thought that TCU, first of all, that was a great football game against SMU. It was kind of back and forth. The Iron Skillet. I love the nickname. The Iron Skillet, for being the last one, I don't know. First of all, is it truly the last one? Or is just scheduling in the way for a while? I don't know. I think it's a game they got to play every year. But TCU wins it 35-24. Can we please start the Josh Hoover Heisman talk? Can we get that going, ladies and gentlemen? Like, what are we doing? Like, what does he have to do to get his name? Because you don't hear his name mentioned at all with anybody. At some point, you have to start. Now, is it because, okay, they didn't play anybody? But how many other teams didn't play anybody that they're still talking about them being in the national spotlight or the Heisman talk? Now we got to talk about Josh Hoover, man. The man for 379, 5 touchdowns. At this point, his name has to be started to be mentioned in Heisman talk. Eric McAllister, Lord have mercy. He just exploded, 254 yards receiving on 8 catches, 3 touchdowns. And it seemed like every time they needed a big play, he made it. SMU, the geniuses that they are, as far as the defense is concerned, continued to single cover him. What did he do? He would catch a pass, break a tackle, and then outrun somebody to the end zone. I'm like, at some point, don't you have to just change what you're doing and say, we're not going to let this guy beat us? I don't care if somebody else does, but this guy we know can beat us. We can't stop him one-on-one. At some point, we're going to say, nope, you can't throw it to this guy. We're taking him away. SMU never did it. Josh Hoover said, thank you very much. I'm just going to continue to eat lunch all day long in this single coverage, and they did. TCU is a good win. Now, the one thing I want to mention about TCU is their defense. Look, their coaches, fans, players, a lot of people last week gave up all those yards to Abilene Christian. And I know some of it came late and after the game was decided, but you still gave up almost 500 yards to Abilene Christian. And I know people thought, SMU coming to town. SMU's got a great offense. What are we looking at here? Well, they held that offense at 395 total yards. It forced 2 turnovers. They did their job. The defense did their job. So I congratulate TCU. That was a good victory. I don't know how great SMU is. I think SMU is a good football team. We'll see what they end up doing in the ACC. Hell, you never know. They may end up in the ACC championship game again, which would be great if they did for TCU. As a matter of fact, we should probably hope and root for that. I mean, especially since the ACC is not looking so hot right now, since the team they thought was going to win it and go undefeated and be in the national championship game, yada, yada, yada. That team is 1-3, and I don't think they have a chance to make the ACC title game, but that's different conference. Who cares? Good win for TCU. Game that I actually believe was the best game of the day in the entire country. I know Oklahoma and Auburn fans might disagree, but I don't care. I think this was the best game of the day. Arizona State goes to Baylor, wins 27-24. If you watched the game, it was an outstanding football game, ladies and gentlemen. If you like football, this is what you wanted to see. You didn't want to see a track meet. You didn't want to see a game that was 58-54 or something of that nature. Now, it could have gotten that way, because both offenses exploded in the fourth quarter. So it could have gotten that way had we gone to overtime, and you know how overtime works, especially in college. But it wasn't that. The first half, offenses didn't do that. But it was a solid football game. Like I said, fourth quarter, both offenses exploded. I thought it was a great game. Sam Levitt threw for 222 in the score, ran for another touchdown. He basically put the team on his back when he needed to. That 61-yard pass, I mean, look, the guy, they asked him to do something, and he did it. I like Sam Levitt. I know that there were some people that had talked and said, well, maybe he's not that good. Maybe he can't do this without Cam Scatterbo. And I think it's taken Arizona State a couple games to kind of figure out how to play without Scatterbo, because last year he was so much the savior. It's not that they didn't have good players, and it's not that other guys didn't do everything or do anything. But when you have a guy that means so much to your team and your program, it may take you a few games to understand, including the coaches, how to play, how to call games, how to react, how to do certain things without that guy. And maybe this is a game where they're like, okay, this is how we need to win, and we can go win this way. Because this is, again, on the road at Baylor. Baylor's a good football team. I know they've lost 2 games, but they haven't lost any slouches. This is a good football team, and they went on the road and won. And maybe this is where Arizona State gets some of that mojo back, because I was pretty hard on them for losing to Mississippi State, and they deserved it. But now maybe I should say, you know what? maybe they're not so bad after all. And they needed to prove it. They needed to earn it. And they did that in this game against against Baylor, excuse me. Arizona State's defense, ladies and gentlemen. Look, so Sawyer Robertson had 250 yards. Yeah. I mean, the man came in averaging around 356, 357 passing, depending on how you want to round the number up. That's what he was averaging coming in, 250 yards. The Baylor offense was averaging 517 yards. They held them to 357. So, like I mentioned before, it wasn't a track meet, and it's partly because Arizona State's defense stood up and said, no, first of all, I bet you they're thinking we can't win a track meet on the road. We can't go to Baylor and win a game, 48-45. We're not winning that football game. We're not built to win that football game. Or they may have thought our defense is better than that. Our defense isn't going to allow this to be a track meet. Either way, I like it. Also, I want to make this clear. I still don't think Baylor's a bad football team. I know Baylor's lost 2 games. They lost to Auburn, who Auburn's better than what I anticipated, and a lot of people anticipated. Arizona State is still a good football team despite losing to Mississippi State. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning. This is one conference loss for Baylor. They could end up in Arlington. I mean, did you all see anything that in that game Saturday that said, yeah, this team can't win the conference? I didn't see anything that said that. It was just 2 good football teams. One made one more play than the other to win the game. That's what I saw. And in my opinion, like I said, I thought it was the best football game or college football game of the weekend. I truly believe that. That's not just the Big 12 homer in me. It was a really solid football game. You saw offense, you saw defense, and some team made a play, which was Arizona State at the end of the game to be able to win the game. So good for them. Arizona State is back, apparently. We'll see how it goes. Because this Big 12 conference is absolutely insane. But that was a good win for the Sun Devils. And then, obviously, the last game, look, Texas Tech took it to Utah. Now, let me start off by addressing the Utah fans because I made a little short video after the game, and I said Tech outclassed them, and they did. Utah fans couldn't take it. Said I didn't watch the game. I'm like, yeah, I watched the game. Well, how could you say you watched the game and say they dominated? They didn't take control to the last 8 minutes. Well, first of all, I don't know. Define control because Tech led the entire time. So if you're not in control when you're ahead, how are you in control? I mean, I just don't understand that. If you're in the lead, like the game wasn't tied. They were in the lead the entire time. They led. So they were in control of the football game. Were they dominating the game? Absolutely not. They weren't. But you know who was? Tech's defense was dominating. Now, you can say that. Now, Utah's defense was also bringing the wood, ladies and gentlemen, too. I wouldn't say dominating, but they were playing outstanding football. Outstanding football. Again, 2 teams that were playing, their defenses were playing lights out. Tech was moving the ball. They had 2 crazy interceptions that Utah created. Now, you can't take that away from them. Deflection, interception, another one in the end zone. They rip a ball away from somebody. Those aren't just naturally like fluky or bad throws by a quarterback where he overthrows a guy by a mile. No. Utah created those turnovers. So you got to give them credit. They were getting pressure on Barrett Morton. They left tackle. They were giving them fits. Having said that, Tech dominated the last 8 minutes of the game, ladies and gentlemen. And football games don't stop at the 52-minute mark. And they say, well, whatever happened in 52 minutes, that's it. We're done. The rest of it, it doesn't matter. No, football games are 60 minutes. So whether the game was close and you dominated and they dominated the last 8 minutes, give them credit. It's okay to just say that, man. I get it if your team didn't win. Give Tech credit. They dominated the last 8 minutes. But if we're being honest, from the very first drive, there was a athletic disparity. I mean, you could see from the first drive that, okay, Tech is the more athletic team. Their defense is the way more athletic than what Utah is going to bring to them on the offensive side. I thought Utah's offensive line would be able to run the football and control it. They couldn't. They ran for 101 yards. Utah isn't winning games like that. Devin Dampier. If that's the accuracy you're going to get, Utah's not going to be the team that I think a lot of their fans thought that they were going to be. He has to be better. Now, did Tech cause that? Yeah, they did. Tech, they got after him. But a lot of that was just him just being inaccurate with the football. You know, and again, if you're going to be that type of passer, they're not going to win the kind of games and not be the team that they want. He has to be better. And coaches have to put him in better positions too. You know, that offensive line, look, let's just call it what it was. Tech dominated the line of scrimmage when Tech was on defense. They dominated the line of scrimmage. It's okay to say that. We all watched the game, man. I mean, what are we going to say? Oh, no, Utah. No, they didn't. They didn't. You know, Tech is the better football team. We watched it. Now, does that mean if they play again in Arlington, will they be the better football team then? We don't know. Hell, does that even mean that Tech is going to go the rest of the season being the best football team? Because if you remember last year, the two teams that people thought, hey, these teams are going to meet in Arlington, it was Utah and Oklahoma State. And what happened? Utah went to Oklahoma State, was the more dominant football team, and literally beat up Oklahoma State. Y'all remember that, what happened last year. I know Utah fans remember that. That's what happened. And then both teams fell off a cliff after that. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think Utah is a much better football team than what they were. At least it appears to be. And I know Tech is not Oklahoma State, you know. And even if you want to say the roles are reversed, I just don't think either of those teams that are going to fall off a cliff. I don't think that. But I do think that Tech showed its dominance. Tech hadn't played anybody. Utah hadn't played anybody. They played each other. Tech was the better football team. And I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind. They were the better football team. They controlled the football game. Yeah, it was close. But just because it's close doesn't mean there's not a team that is in control. Tech was in control of that game. And they brought in a backup quarterback. Well, he had to come in. Will Hammond came in and was lights out. Absolutely lights out. And some people said, well, Bear Morton was playing bad. I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was 12 of 17. He had those 2 interceptions. But again, it's not his fault that a guy ripped the ball away from his receiver in the end zone. How's that on the quarterback? Ball gets deflected by his receiver. How's that on him? You know, he wasn't playing bad. The backup just happened to play better. and because two things can be true. Morton was playing okay. He was playing pretty good. Hammond was just better. He came in and was lights out, not just throwing the ball, also running the ball. Because if you notice, they took their offensive line, Tech's offensive line took control late in the second half. We can say Utah's defense got tired. They probably did, because you keep going 3 and out. You're not moving the football, you know, and turning it over. You're out there a lot. Yeah, they got tired. Tech wore them down, but that's what good teams do. The last 8 minutes, Tech just dominated the football game. And it's not like this was such a clean game by Texas Tech. They had 14 penalties, people. 14 penalties, 2 turnovers. That's not a clean game. On the road, a lot of times, a team makes 14 penalties, they get beat. They ended up winning 34-10. I'm just throwing that out there. That's all I'm saying. I thought it was a good football game, but clearly Tech was the better football team. And moving forward, we'll see what each team does. But this is not the same Tech as old, people. You could see it from the very first snap. This is not the same Texas Tech team. That defense is legit. Just give them their due. I'm not saying Utah's offense is the greatest, because it's not. They got to be better. That quarterback and an offensive play caller, they got to be better. But that Tech defense is legit. Don't take anything away from them. That was a solid victory. So I appreciate everybody, man. Like I said, I thought it was a great weekend for the Big 12. I thought it was a great weekend. I know all of our teams probably didn't win. I get that. But I thought it was a great weekend to really kind of showcase who this conference is. It's a step forward. We've had some step backs this year, but this was a step forward. It's a good weekend. Next weekend's going to be even better. Cannot wait, ladies and gentlemen. So I appreciate everybody. Power rankings come out tomorrow. Make sure you guys are there. I'm guessing you're going to know who's at the top, but you never know. You never know. We could always surprise. We appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.